Okay, I want to show you what I have in front of me here. This is a 2007 MacBook computer. I just pulled this out of storage recently because I had a newer MacBook that stopped working in January of 2017, and I did all the troubleshooting. I couldn't get it back operational. So, but then I was like, hey, wait a minute, I still have another MacBook, so I pulled this out of storage, and I've been playing around with it, and I haven't used this since 2011. So it's going on 6 years since I've used this on a regular basis. I used this hardcore in 2008, 9, 10 solid, but I haven't really used it hardcore since. And it's just really interesting using this because it's such an old. It's my oldest computer. It's going on 10 years now, and using this in 2017 is still a functional computer, but you got a lot of problems. One thing, Apple apparently stopped sending security updates for this version of the operating system, and right now it's running Snow Leopard. They stopped sending that in like 2013. Um, so that hasn't been supported by Apple going on 4 years. You also have major web browsers like Chrome and Firefox. From what I can tell, in Opera, they stopped offering updates for this version of the operating system. I think in 2016. I did a little research on it, just looking up things since I started using this since January, and a lot of the stuff I've been looking up since last week or so, when I've really tried to get into how using this in 2017 will work. So you're not going to have for a lot of major services out there, you're not going to have a lot of software support and security, online security uh, gurus or whatever the heck you call them. They suggest you don't use outdated software because it's a security risk. Now, if you don't have any choice in the matter, I guess you always have some choice, but if you still prefer to use um, these old computers running old operating system, running old browsers, you got to really check up on using good online security practices because it's like almost like moving to a high crime neighborhood. You can move to a high crime neighborhood and be safe, but you have to be more conscious of your safety. So where you might be more cavalier using a Mac or whatever that had the latest software and the latest protections, now you have to be more conscious. So one of the things is when you're using these browsers, which are still functional even though they're not being supported anymore by their parent companies, what I've found is that you can still download extensions for security. So um, so you can download extensions for script removals on websites, and I guess also ad blockers and things like that. So you can still do that, which will also, I think, improve your online surfability. Because what I found is that these browsers on this old computer is super slow. I mean, it's just crazy. The slowness varies. Sometimes it's really bad, and sometimes it's okay. So I was testing a lot of different browsers. The one major browser that I'm aware of that that still has you can still download the up-to-date version of it is the Tor browser, and the Tor browser is built around online security. So that is still an option, although with Tor, I think it limits your ability to access certain websites. Like I don't think, from what I'm reading, you can't access your Gmail account from Tor. Um, you can still do that from the old browsers, but you're using that old operating system, and there's security concerns when doing that. And there's also some like really small browsers that I'm like SeaMonkey and a couple others that I'm not really all that familiar with, um, that are still eligible. for download, and I think you can still get the latest version with Snow Leopard. And I think as this is not being supported by the major browsers anymore, there's probably more that will jump up with the opportunity to service these old customers, because I think there's still probably several million people um, out there who are still using Snow Leopard. There are going to be a lot of different scenarios. There's going to be someone like me who maybe their newer computer stopped working, so they pull out these old computer that might still be operational, but it's not eligible for the latest operating system, so you're using the old ones. Um, Also, there are going to be people who just love this operating system so much they don't want to upgrade. They might have a software that they paid for that's expensive, and it still works fine on the old operating system, so they don't want to upgrade. There's a lot of people that are in the resale market. They're buying these old computers and they're using them with that old operating system. Especially people I think in other countries who might want to use Macs but can't necessarily. And this is really people every country really who can't afford the new prices, because you're going to be spending over $1,000. Even for the cheapest, it's going to be around 1,000. Um, if you want to actually have add-ons or get like a MacBook Pro that's real tricked out, you're going to be spending over $2,000. So it can be very expensive. You can go online and probably buy a computer like this one for maybe under $100, you know. And you can do a lot of work on them, because one of the things I've been looking at, like you go to a site like iFixit, and they give you detailed instructions on how to upgrade your computer. So I'm looking at that, and there's things I can do on here. I don't think I will, other than maybe upgrade the RAM, because it's an old computer. I don't know. I don't want to sink too much money into it. But the computer that stopped working um, prior to me pulling this back out of storage, I was on iFixit, and it looks like I could probably fix that computer. I put it off to the side thinking it was a done deal. I had that computer for 6 years. I got my money's worth out of it. I thought if I had to take it to a service center, they would charge me more than what it's worth. So I was like, all right, well, there it goes. But looking at iFixit, it looks like I could fix that. And that computer was actually eligible for the latest version of OS, like what's that, OS Sierra. So I was running the latest OS when that thing failed. I think it's a hard drive problem. But so I think I could fix that and actually have that thing up and running with the latest operating system. So I'm probably going to do that in the future. But in the meantime, I'm still playing around with this, and it's like a time capsule because I haven't done anything with this really. Since the 5 years I kind of put this in storage, I only pulled it out maybe once a year at the most. That I would have a use in a scenario to use it like once a year. So a lot of the stuff that was on there as is from like as it was in 2011. So it's like a time capsule. A lot of old apps, old bookmarks that I forgot about that I would not be able to find otherwise. They were saved on this computer. So most of my important files I already moved off of it, but a lot of the little things. So it was pretty cool. I think you can still download some antivirus. It looked like Avast was still eligible for this. But just use at your own risk. If you're using this old computer, you have to decide for yourself whether what you're going to download and use. I couldn't find a VPN. There are some VPN browser extensions. They didn't seem to work on the old unsupported browsers. I was able to try it on a new computer with an up-to-date browser and they seemed to work, but on these old browsers, they didn't seem to work, the VPNs that you can get like for browser extensions on like Chrome or Firefox. But a lot of the other extensions seem to work. So even though the browser itself is not being supported, the extensions still seem to be compatible. I think it's comparable to if you get like an Android phone and it's running an old version of Android, you can still go to the App Store and download apps. So I think the extension situation, for the most part, again, I said the VPNs didn't work, but I think like for the most part, extensions will still work. So you can look at extensions to improve your security online. That will give you at least some of a boost. So you're just not just out there naked, you know. on the internet with no protection whatsoever. Um, but then you really, really want to do good practices online, and hopefully you have another computer that has an up-to-date browser where you can do more sensitive browsing, um, so that you're not putting yourself too much at risk. I mean, just for basic web searches, on reputable websites, uh, you know, you take the risks that you feel comfortable with taking. Also, the old apps, there's the old app bundle that Apple had with their old operating systems that's not around anymore. There's a lot of old apps. One of the things I was reading recently is that, Apple has changed a lot with their iLife bundle. Now it's given out for free, but back in the day you had to pay for it. And a lot of those old iLife applications had a lot more features that they don't really have right now. So if you're looking at pages or numbers or Keynote, um, they've dumbed it down in a lot of ways. And it seemed like they tried to make it more like the iPad. And a lot of power users, they don't like that. They want to have some of those power features. But a lot of them have been removed, probably because most people weren't using those features. So it wasn't really, you're only really losing the power users when you're taking away those features. And unfortunately, the power users are the people who spread the word online. So I think there is a bit of a drawback to getting on the power users' bad side. There's also other apps. Some of them I never really use. Let me see if I can pull up one, just so I can remember the name of these things. Let me see here. Because they used to have a lot of apps. Which one of the apps? I'm just looking in the application folder right now. You have the old iMovie. I remember doing movies, early YouTube videos on the old iMovie, and I felt the old iMovie was a little easier than the newer one. I didn't really notice a lot of missing features on the newer iMovie, but I remember the older one being a little easier to do certain things. I just remember it being more intuitive. Um, okay, I don't think they have iDVD anymore. I'm looking at the application folder right now. I never used that. The iDVD apparently is an app you use to create your own DVDs, and then you can split the movies up in chapters, just like an actual DVD that you would purchase. Um, they have iChat. I think that's been replaced by iMessage now. And where's the one I was looking for? iWeb. Yeah, iWeb. iWeb. I never used that, and I don't know if it's any usefulness now. But iWeb allowed you to create your own web pages. And in the early days of the internet, creating your own web pages was like really important. Now people just go to social media, and a lot of people, that's their web page, their social media, their Instagram, their Twitter. Major businesses, they're going to have their own web pages, but for a lot of just normal everyday people, in order to reach people for their own social media profile, a lot of times that's enough. Having a Facebook page, having a Instagram, that is enough for them to get their word out about what they're doing. And if you have your own web page, that's just a companion. You know, all these things work together. But it's not a great. I mean, if you wanted to give yourself your own place on the internet for your own self-expression in the early days of the internet, you needed to have your own web page. Social media was in its infancy, and it didn't have the outward reach that it does have now. So that was really important. That's not around anymore. I might try to open it up and see what I can do with it, and just to play around with it, because I used to make my own web pages. I still have my own web page now, but it used to be a greater thing that I was interested in at one point. Right now it's a little easier because you have a lot of services that makes it simple to create your own web page. quickly, and it looks professional. There's a lot of services like that on the web. I'm sure you heard about many of them. Some of them have commercials. What's the one? Something Space. I forget what it's called, um, but it's a really good one. Okay, so this is another thing that's really good about these old Macs is that the number of ports. So the new Macs are only having a single port or two ports at the most. This one also has an optical drive for DVDs and CDs. That doesn't exist on the new Mac. So if you're someone that uses a lot of ports when you're on your notebook, computer, or laptop computer, buying a new Mac or buying any of the Ultrabooks. I think some of the Ultrabooks that are made by PC makers, they still try to keep a number of ports active. But Apple's moving, even on their MacBook Pro line, they're moving away from ports. They're moving away. So if you want to have, you have to get like dongles and other things to add these extensions. So that's, if you don't want, you want to have as many ports as possible, you sometimes have to get these old computers. But, a lot of the older ones are not going to be supported anymore with modern software. My 2011 has a lot of ports on it, and it's still eligible for the latest operating system. So that's probably the way to go. But since it's still eligible for all those things, I'm imagining that it's still very expensive online. Macs kind of hold on to their value as long as they're able to handle the latest operating systems. It seems like you have to go to obsolete Macs in order to get them really cheap online. So that's a problem with the Mac thing. But since these things still have some ability for computing, and there's still a lot of use case scenarios, you may find yourself maybe we just wanting to buy one just to play around with it. If you have fun with computers, and you can do a lot of your own maintenance. If you look online, there's YouTube videos that'll show you how to do things. You can go to sites like iFixit, other sites online. If you do a good web search, you'll find a whole page with detailed instructions how to make alterations on your computer. And I think I'm going to be doing that in the future, possibly with this, but I'm not sure because I don't really need it for my frontline computing needs. Just be extras. But my 2011 MacBook, if I can get that working again, I definitely need that. So I'm probably going to go that route with the fix-it route. But hey, these old tech still has some uses. If you have an opportunity to get one or to play around with one, do it. You may find a use case scenario for your own computer needs. Peace.